Happy full moon, guys. Welcome to this video. Thanks so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness. You're probably gonna be watching this the day after the full moon by the time I post this video. But I posted a couple of other videos I was running behind on, which a lot of the stuff I share is non-linear, so it doesn't really matter. How are we feeling? Let's just do a little quick recap of this last week, and then I'll go into flow with the guides and just kind of share what's been coming through for me, for anyone interested. So it felt it was kind of a wacky week. It was very expansive in a lot of ways. There was a lot that came up in messages. Some of the messages I covered from the guides revolved around fear. They always talk about it's always about our perspective. Some of the other synchronicities were around health and well-being. I did a video on nutrition with the guides, which it wasn't like I dove deeply into nutrition guidance. It was more about listen to your body, recognize that every single person has a different type of, even though we're all humans, we have the same template, we really do have a different energy system. What foods I can ingest that I'm comfortable with may not be the same that my sister or, neighbor or, parent can digest. And if we start to recognize how individual each of our systems are, even though we still need the base nutrients, we all need to drink water, right? We are being called to start to be more experiential, do what feels right for us versus what we're told to do from other people. And that's kind of the theme across the board, not just the nutrition. It has to do with what are we afraid of? It has to do with us stepping up. One of the other messages that came up as a recap was that we've come into a whole other layer. The elevator has gone up, so to speak, in the building, and some people want to continue to stay in the lower levels. And can we accept that? We can still be in a place of immense change. We can be in a place of immense expansiveness. And while that's happening, can we simultaneously come into acceptance of those who are not comfortable with that, who want to play small or want to stay in a lower range frequency because that's their comfort zone, while some of us are being called to step out of our comfort zone. And so we can, but the guides are like, we can't expect everyone to come with us because this is an individual experience. And what they did was they kind of recapped all the videos I did and said, look, every person is different, and so every diet is going to be different. All of our taste buds, even though they have the same basic foundation of how they look, which they look like roses, by the way, if you put them under a microscope, in case you didn't know that, it's kind of interesting. That's going to be different. So why do we expect, or why are we putting expectations on our brothers and sisters to be the same, to go along the same path that we're going, to do things the same way we're doing, to listen to the same book and get the same, information from it? Everybody's going to get something a little bit different. And that should be, from another perspective, a beautiful thing, to be able to see these individual and unique expressions, right, of the one in the many. All right, so we're just going to go into a little flow with the guides from there. Maybe we'll see what wants to come through. This is meant to be felt, not necessarily understood on a linear basis. And as we come together in wholeness and unification with our true innate sense and sensibility, we begin to descramble, we begin to recognize that we are holding within us I'm just seeing a galaxy. I'm just seeing infinite space, we'll say. And sometimes it is difficult to feel infinite in a space in which we may not feel as if we are being received, or we may not feel as if we have trust in what we are seeing. And we may experience moments of feeling fearful of what the future may hold. We may experience moments of not feeling completely in full understanding of why we are here. And I could go on and on about these feelings that come up as we experience life. But we are being invited as a unique human collective of energies and frequencies to keep the invitation open, to be open to new experiences, to be open to the potential of trust, even though at some point trust has been broken. We are being called to look at each other with a clean vision, if you will, a clean projector, wiping the vision clean so that we can clear out all of the remnants that we have held on to from our past that have created I'm seeing dirty pipes, coagulation, blockages. And I'm also seeing like sometimes we look at someone for an example and they look like someone that we maybe, they look like someone that reminds us of our past. And so we automatically pass judgment on that person subconsciously. We're not really sure why we don't like that person, but it really is because they remind us of, somebody who bullied us when we were a kid. They have the same look, they have the same profile. And so what I'm hearing is guilty by association. So recognize if we're doing that, because that's a distortion that we put together for survival, so to speak. And so we are being invited to come out of survival mode and into thrival mode. We are being gifted with an opportunity in this moment to clear out the distortions and really feel into the expansion that is available to each and every one of us. Coming out of contraction, if you will, and coming out of contractual programming and contractual representations of relationships and business associates and so on and so forth. This is beyond just what we think of as a contractual obligation. And this is a play on words, contract as in small and to pull in, but in addition to signing some form of contractual obligation. Many of us are clearing these up, closing these out, ripping them up, and they've already been. And we are being called to let go of what might have been and to focus on what is now. For what is happening now is much better than what might have been or what might happen. Because as we focus on this now moment of deep inner convergence, we begin to converge and merge and converse. I'm hearing all these different words with deeper aspects of ourselves and the stories that we have been told that we were weaned on. We begin to wean ourselves off of. We are being invited to let go of this ideology that many of us have latched onto in the purpose of survival or in the purpose of feeling as if our boundaries need to be held within a particular square surface, if you will. I'm hearing like get out of the box. I'm seeing the square. Like maybe it's a star. Maybe it looks like what's behind me, that symbol. Like it's not just a box. And so many of us are feeling as if we have expanded the angles of our box and are not sure exactly where this leads us to. Yet we are no longer being held down, if you will, by an energetic compilation of false matrices, matriarchies, matrix realities. For this is now no longer as deeply embedded in our field, if you will. Much of this has been uplifted. Much of this has been re-regulated, we might say. And this is a play on words. Hearing that song again, regulators. And so we are being invited to play in this new reality system by creating new systems in which to play with. Being the creators, if you will, the creators, the excitable. I'm just hearing all kinds of crazy songs right now. But basically, using excitement and our ability to be creative so that we can get away from falling back into the same directive, falling back into the same patterns. And I'm being called to go back to what I posted in a video from yesterday. And the guides were talking about the elevator. We've up leveled, we've come up to this higher floor, and there's people that are afraid to step forward. They're afraid to look at their new surroundings and see something different. And so instead, they're looking at something that they've been looking at, or they're looking at something new, but they're not seeing it through new eyes because they can't quite get past the dirty lens that they've been viewing things through for a long time. The reason I'm sharing this is it may not be you watching this video that's experiencing that, but you might be noticing this in the collective. You might be noticing it from other people around you. But what I'm being shown more and more often is this is not going to be the case. So rather than being discouraged by that, be encouraged by that which you are seeing. Be encouraged by that which you are reflecting. Be encouraged by that, okay, I'm being shown a lion, and encourage. Like, be in a place of courage and lack of self-doubt, because there are those who are not able to see the future. They're looking too much in the past, and they've become so, I'm hearing they're past their prime. That's a play on words, because my dear friend and sister was playing with primers, which I'm not really sure exactly what that means right now. But I'm also being called to play with that. Like, they're past their prime. They're that at one point, that was all they, now they're like, well, I don't know what to do now. I feel a little off. So they're just going to keep doing what they've always been doing because that's all they know how to do. It's not all they know how to do, but that might be all they feel safe to do. That might be that might be what they're able to see. Because just because I can see things doesn't mean somebody else can. Doesn't mean they can't. It just might mean that they haven't activated that, or they're not willing to, or they're too afraid, right? So when I look at something, if I'm seeing the field, I might see something somebody else can't. Somebody else might see something I can't see. And it's not necessarily that we can't see it, it's that we haven't trained ourselves to look in a certain way, to then be able to see that thing that's already there in the field. And that was the other message that was coming through too. I feel like I'm gonna have to go into this. Maybe I'll have to do a video with Candace about the primers. I'm gonna have to do a video with Alasa. Boy, I'm running a little bit behind on these. And Jess. So we're past that point though. So if we can see, what I'm being shown is that we're the ones that can see, the ones that can be curious and intuitive. We are the ones that are creating. And as we create, that reality unfolds and more people can join us, if that makes sense. It's almost like creating this vision, and then as you create it, the floor starts to expand, expand, expand. And then people are looking around, not even sure where they're walking, and they're walking on what we've created. That's what it's all about. And it isn't necessarily, I'm hearing, it's not necessarily about getting the credit for it either. I don't know why that's coming up, but that might be relevant. Okay, I'm being shown a couple of things. Have you guys ever noticed, and then I'll go back into flow. Have you guys ever been right about something, and you tell someone and they ignore it, or they deny it, or they unfriend you, literally, because they don't believe in what you believe? And then all of a sudden, I'll give an extreme example. So let's say I'm getting goosebumps right now. You were telling them about, let's say, what they spray in the air, okay? And we've been saying that for years, and all of a sudden, and that person says, you're crazy. I don't think I can be friends with somebody who's this conspiracy theorist. And you know what? I'm just gonna, you guys, I could fill in the blanks. Light language, you're crazy, whatever it might be. You're crazy for believing in this particular story. It's so fake. I can't believe you believe in that. And then all of a sudden, when you see them again, they are now reporting on those stories that you said that they accused you of being fake. And now they're actually, that's their world. They've totally forgotten that at one point, right, they didn't believe in it because that's now what they believe in. They're just like, yeah, I discovered this and I discovered that. And you're like, did you? But it doesn't matter. That's the thing we have to kind of come into alignment with. I'm being shown. Some of us are going to have to, and that has to do with ego, right? Um, yeah, or let's say you introduce someone. Like I'm always so grateful to my friend Kat who introduced me to heart math, and then all of a sudden I'm using heart math and she's like, I'm the person that told you about that. Then I tell 10 other people about it and I talk about it all the time. And really she was the one that opened my eyes to that particular topic or that particular subject. I'm giving that as a for instance, because what I'm seeing is there's going to be more and more information coming out about UFOs. There's going to be more and more information coming about, the pyramids, ancient technology, what's being done in our environment, what's been hidden, political world, obviously Hollywood, all of that. And so every one of us that has shared this information in the past is like, oh my goodness, we may not be validated, is what I'm trying to say. And that has to be okay with us. It doesn't have to be, I'm not telling you, but there is a little bit of that element that's coming up as a reminder. As long as we recognize it within ourselves and we see that things are going in a positive direction, it's like, what I'm hearing is recognizing that we helped them or they helped us or whatever it is, but we may not be actually receiving the credit for it on a public way. And I'm also seeing there's a lot of people that feel like, oh, I was right, see how this, but they're still hanging on to that. And that's another video I did last week about righteousness. Like, I was right, you were wrong. And so that is an energy that we're being invited to let go of because that actually keeps us, well, it does a lot of things. I'm being called to talk about that very briefly. It keeps us in a loop. It keeps us in a cycle. It keeps us in a place of ego. It keeps us in a place of judgment. And it's not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of, are we making progress? And, what do they say about teaching? Like, it's basically, we're all teachers in our own way. We don't have to necessarily get the validation or the credit. It feels really nice to be validated, by the way. But what I'm being shown is we're being invited to feel validated because that person is taking what we shared with them and they're doing something big and positive with it. Not because we are the ones that need the pedestal or the credit or we need. Now, there's a whole plethora of things I could go into that I'm not going to about, well, what if it was my work or, what if it was something I created? That's not what the guides are referring to. That's another story. And that has, that's definitely relevant, I think, for a lot of people. But if it's been done, it's already in the field. So we're coming into this place where we're really being invited to be as work together as much as we can. And yes, have integrity when it comes to working together and not take ideas and then claim that they're our own. That's a totally different subject. And I guess it is important to bring that up because that does happen, but also recognizing on the other side that sometimes those ideas weren't really ours in the first place either. So there's a fine line and give credit where credit is due, but sometimes not expecting credit because we may not have been the original creators of whatever that is. We might have just taken somebody else's idea, made it our own, not even realizing that we did that. That's something to keep in mind also. So that might be a topic I go into at a different time. For we are coming into a place of advanced creativity, and the more we can come together and share our concepts in balance and harmony, the more concepts create a full package. For right now, there are many concepts that are missing certain pieces, and part of it has been because of secrecy. Many people have needed to keep their ideas and ideologies, this is a play on words. I'll come back to that maybe. Many people have needed to keep their ideas and concepts under wraps, if you will, For there have been people who would run with it and misinterpret those creative projects, or those that would seek to sabotage those creative projects. But that time is coming to an end, for if we do not begin to create from a higher, advantageous, expansive place, we would come to an end, meaning we must grow, we must work together, because if we do not, the infinite cycle or circle of life will infinitely move into something different, as it already is. But we wish to perpetuate life in a positive form, not in a place of lack of balance and lack of, I'm just seeing love, because that's the infinite form. The finite is the jealousy, the envy, the fear, the doubt, the all of that. That's finite, but it all comes back to source, bliss, love. That's expansive. That's growth. So we've got death and rebirth, right? And it's not to say that you have one without the other, but I am being shown that that cycle isn't supported any longer. So rather than, I'm seeing a hamster on a wheel, continuing that cycle, why not step off the wheel? And I'm being shown a color wheel, and start to create new creations from the color wheel that's now available to us. And there are more colors, there are more sounds, there are more things available to us, because just like up leveling in a video game, that's what we've done. So we just have to figure out, and I'm hearing figure 8, infinite, how to navigate this new architecture. And we can't do that in the same way that we used to. And so the new format requires us to put on a new thinking cap. I'm being shown a pointy hat. It requires us to think about things outside of the box, to become more nonlinear, to move into a much more neutral point of view, so that we can tune into another person's point of view that might have value. I'm just rhyming here. And create value in our coming together. So these valuable concepts are missing pieces at times because we have not been talking about them. We have been lacking in great minds coming together. Instead, we have been working in separation and in secretive formats. While that has been expansive in some ways, it has not fully allowed us to embrace our extreme abilities. And this is a play on words, like extreme. There's big abilities that we're still pushing down, or have been pushed down. So that's starting to bubble up to the surface. And then all of a sudden these ahas start happening because we're working together. And we are referencing everything from medical, health, from science, which goes through all topics really, mathematics, transportation, all forms of transportation. Health covers food, and also the earth is expanding as well. So this pocket that we were encapsulated within has now birthed or burst forth a new stream of energy. And if we have new energy available to us to work with, we are no longer subject to the old model, because the old model no longer is part of our subject matter, play on words. It doesn't hold the same angles, ratios, zigzags, shapes, and patterns that it once did, because the energy that we are fluidly interacting with no longer holds the same counterparts, play on words. It doesn't hold the same measures. Therefore, we are unable to measure it in the same way. And so these different increments, if you will, that we have to measure, that are being added into the patterns that make up our reality, that make up our lattice work, if you will, the co-creative frequencies that we are all blended into. This allows us to access more. It allows us to see more. It allows us to play with new models. I'm hearing new modeling clay. And when we do this and come together and play, we are able, I'm seeing Play-Doh, we are able to create miraculous creations. We are able to create miraculous expressions in the most delightful way. I wrote a poem about that. That's coming up again. In the most delightful way. I think that's Sound of Music or Mary Poppins. That's a spoonful of sugar. I think they're both similar. And so we end on this note. There are so many things that are unfolding currently. We invite you to sing songs. I'm hearing the Zion, Lion and Zion. I had a dream, by the way, I'll share at the end. We are creating together in such an expansive way, for the future is on its way. And we are creating the future now, yet it has already been seen. Yet it continues to be created in a very unique way. It cannot be fully predicted because each of you is moving out of an unpredictive model, or I'm being shown moving from a predictive modeling to an unpredictable modeling, which is actually more organized than we think it is, because we're doing it from a place of cohesive coherence. So we're not creating from this predictive chaos that still comes back to alignment. You know, it's chaos into, what is it, chaos theory? But now it's actually being done. It's funny. I'm seeing like, it's because as I'm saying this, I'm seeing we actually had chaos, yet it was predictive. Like, okay, we're going to create chaos and this is what's going to happen. We're going to create chaos and this is what's going to happen. But now we're not able to see what's going to happen because we're changing how we respond to it. We're changing our thoughts around it. We're changing our patterns around it, which gives us access to more. So even though there may be chaos going on, it's not necessarily going on inside of us. And being that we are the creators of this reality from one perspective, we are then able to co-create cohesively, yet unpredictably, because it's being done in a different way. And I'm being shown it operates within time differently. It doesn't have the same construct. It doesn't have the same pattern. So it's fractal versus the same pattern repeating itself. It's many patterns that are so infinite that it's not to say that it's not already there. We just can't see it in the same way because it's so much. It's very exciting. So I'm going to end on that note and just invite everybody to have fun co-creating. And thank you so much for tuning into this video, and to be continued in love and light. Namaste.